Hello, welcome back. I hope that everybody had a great weekend. All right, I hope your comics turned out really well. Let's get started on something new, right? So we're going to be talking today about perspective. Okay, so let's open this up real quick. Perspective. Okay, so what is perspective? Perspective, I would say, it has a relationship with point of view, but I don't think that point of view is exactly what perspective is. I would say perspective is not only what we see, or how we see it, but also where we see it from. And we're going to be talking about two different kinds of perspective. One of them is 1-point perspective, and one of them is 2-point perspective. All right, but first we got to talk about point of view. So there are different kinds of points of view. This one obviously is called bird's eye view. It is where we see the tops and sides of different boxes and we're looking down. Okay. Bird's eye view means that we are looking down. Next, we have, this is called either dog's eye view or worm's eye view. It means that we are below the horizon line looking up. Okay, so we'd be able to see like the edge of that building and the sides, but we couldn't see what's on top of that. All right, so here's 1, 2, 3, and 4 different perspectives. You can see this line right here. This is called the horizon line. And you can see as the horizon line gets lower, our perspective changes. So bird's eye view would be 1. The one where the horizon line is the highest, where it looks like we can see the most of this path. As we get lower, we get more towards a person's eye view, which would be kind of on our horizon line. That's called street view. And then number 4 would be dog's eye view or worm's eye view, because they are the lowest to the ground. All right, so let's talk about 1-point perspective. 1-point perspective means that every single line that is in this image, unless it is a vertical line, a horizontal line, and some patterns, will lead to a singular point along the horizon line called the vanishing point. And it's pretty obvious in this image where that vanishing point is. It's in the center. All these lines seem to kind of move towards the center line. So I'm going to draw that point for us so we can see it's right there where that red dot is. And then every line should lead there unless it is vertical, horizontal, or a pattern. So like the lines on the street, those are going to lead to our vanishing point. The sidewalks, those are going to lead to our vanishing point. Tops of buildings, that will lead us to our vanishing point. Even the power lines right here, those will lead us to the vanishing points. So there's many ways to find where the vanishing point is, even if we can't see it. And you just find where these lines would cross. All right, so I'm going to clear that. All right, so here's how it works. We have our horizon line. We have our vanishing point along the horizon line, and everything leads to it unless it is, like I said, a horizontal line, vertical line, like this, and then a pattern. So even like the tops of these telephone poles, telegraph poles will lead to that vanishing point. The lines on the railroad will lead to the vanishing point. The path on the side, that'll lead to our vanishing point. And like I said, it's not obvious, it's not clear. So what you would do is just take this line and we find where they cross and see where X marks the spot. That is where our vanishing point would be. All right, this one's pretty obvious. Vanishing point is here in the middle of the city. But what I usually do with my students is I like to have them show me where the vanishing point is. So show your work. Just like in math, we're going to show our work. So right now, so tops of the buildings, that would lead down there. And see, look, this would kind of be our horizon line right here. Yeah, I'd kind of go like this. We can't see it because there's a bunch of buildings in the way. But this is where our horizon line would be. Vanishing points along the horizon line. So if I did one above the horizon line with that building right there, you could take the sidewalk and that leads there. That's below our horizon line. Top of the building leads there. That's below the horizon line. Every top of the building is going to lead there. Some patterns will lead there. Okay, so let me go back real quick. Some patterns will lead there. So if it is like a pattern like this, where it's like a checkered pattern, or this brick pattern, or these windows, those lines, the lines that are going horizontal, if you want the pattern to look realistic, it must point towards the vanishing point. Okay. But see, lines on this side of the building do not have to. Only the lines on this side for it to look real. The bricks, these lines would have to lead to the vanishing point. Okay, next. All right, so do we see the vanishing point here? No, we do not, because there are buildings in the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to find out where that vanishing point would be by finding where the lines cross. So I'm going to use the top of the fence here. I'm going to draw it a little bit further down than I normally would. I'm going to do the top of this building right here. I'm going to just find where it crosses. I'm going to do the bottom of that fence. Looks like their drawing's a little off, or maybe the vanishing point's just bigger. Using the part of the sidewalk here, top of this fence right here. Boom. So we find this little cluster right here, and that's going to be where our vanishing point would be. So it looks like the vanishing point was pretty big. So we've got our vanishing point there. All right. Bird's eye view or worm's eye view? What is it? If you guessed worm's eye view or dog's eye view, you are right. How do you know? Well, there's a tree right here. It shows us looking up at the building, in the middle of the street, looking up at the buildings. All right, do we see a vanishing point? No, we do not. It is not obvious. Does that mean there is no vanishing point? There's still a vanishing point. We just have to find where those lines cross. So to do that, I'm going to use the edges of the buildings. So I'm going to use the edge of this building, just kind of extend it longer than I normally would. Edge of that building, find where it crosses, and use the edge of this one right here. Edge of this building here. It looks like we found it. So I'm going to go ahead and put my little dot down to show us where our vanishing point is. There we go. That's our vanishing point right there. Okay, so what was this line called again? That would be our horizon line. And what's this thing? That is our vanishing point. All right, and everything leads there unless it is what? A vertical line, a horizontal line, or some patterns. The vertical line's not leading there, but the angled lines are. If this is an angled line at all, it should lead to your vanishing point. Okay, this is where we change from 1 point to 2 point perspective. So 2 point perspective, much like it sounds, is going to have two vanishing points. So 1 point kind of led in, 2 point leads out. So again, we don't see it. And the tricky part with this is that it is kind of off the screen. So I'm going to just use my lines that I have to find where the lines would cross. Go to my line tool. And so I'm going to go over here. I'm going to just kind of use the bottom of the sidewalk. I'm going to use the top of this building right here. Find where the lines cross. I'm going to use the top of this building right here and the sidewalk down here. We find where those lines cross. And so now we have found that our vanishing points are here and here. Okay, 2 point perspective. That means that our horizon line would be here. We don't really see it because, that's right, the building's in the way. Okay, so here's how perspective relates to point of view. Okay, so we talked about point of view where we're dog's eye view is looking up, bird's eye view is looking down, and then street view is exactly like that building that we just saw. So this building right here is on the street level. We can't see the top of it, we can't see under it. We can only see the two sides of it. So think of this box that is on the horizon line as that building on the corner. So if we are looking up at this, this would be worm's eye view or dog's eye view, this box here. Think about like the dog looking up at the dinner table. You can see the bottom of the table and they would be able to see the edges of the table, but they would not be able to see what's on top of the table. And then bird's eye view, think about flying in an airplane. So if we are in an airplane, you can see the tops of the buildings, you can see the sides of the buildings, but you would not be able to see under the building. It'd be impossible. And then street view is just those two edges. And every single one of these lines, you can see these faint lines right here, all lead to our vanishing points, unless they are these 3 vertical lines. Every one of these boxes has 3 vertical lines, and every other line, including the tops and bottoms of these boxes, point to our vanishing points. Okay. I always like to show this. I think it's pretty neat. So here's our city. This is a city street corner. And this is kind of how perspective works with that city street corner. So all those lines on the sidewalk, the tops of the buildings, the windows, the doors, they all lead to the vanishing points on either side. This city street corner looks very complex, but it actually is not super detailed. There's every one of these lines, like I said, leads to a vanishing point. So like this corner right here of this building, if I wanted to see where this line pointed to, it's going to point down to that vanishing point on the right side. Sidewalk over here leads to the vanishing point on the left side. The tricky part here is all of these squares, the little lines that separate the sidewalk tiles, lead to the opposite vanishing point. So like if I wanted to find out where this line was pointing to, it actually points to the vanishing point on the other side. It's pretty crazy. Even all these little lines in this building, they all point to the opposing vanishing point. This building right here is a pattern, so it does not follow rules. It does not point to the vanishing point. However, the top of the building and the side of the building does. So the top point here would lead to this vanishing point on the side. And then the other side points to this vanishing point. Even though it's a pretty drastic angle, it is still correct. Vertical lines don't lead to our vanishing point, right? There we go. Okay, so this is a street level view of South Lake Town Square. And this is actually the original plan that was drawn up before South Lake Town Square was ever even built. It's pretty crazy because it actually looks pretty similar. I do think that the only change that's made from this photo is the windows here in Town Hall. I don't think they're actually there. Okay, so tell me, why in this drawing that they did, why would they have people? It's not because they wanted to show that people would be there. It's not to show that it's a place you could bring your families. It is actually to show scale. And what I mean by that is we have a guy right here. So look at this guy. He's about this big, right? If we had that same height guy, if I took this and put it in the back over here, this guy would be taller than our building. That's why we have a guy that's this big right here and a guy in the back that is this big right here. Recognize this? So this is across the street to from South Lake Town Square. So my favorite place is over here. It's Michael's. So this is a bird's eye view image of this part of the city. They did change up a few things. It looks like they did not do the wood paneling around the sidewalks. That fountain is working. I think that that fountain is almost out of order all the time. But it is pretty neat that this one company that has basically designed South Lake has drawn this up, and then it looks pretty much like this now. Another thing that this company built is in South Lake Town Square, their homes. They're called the brownstones. Is this a bird's eye view, worm's eye view, or street view? This is a street view because we cannot see on top and we cannot see under, but we can see both sides of these buildings. Okay, last one before we're done today. So this is actually kind of a story in a story. So there's a German company that is a grocery store chain, and they are called Aldi. So Aldi has two different kinds of grocery stores in Germany. I'm gonna show you guys this. All right, so Aldi has two different kinds of grocery stores in Germany. They have I don't know what they're called. They're called like Aldi something German and Aldi something else German. So they have two kinds. The first Aldi, we'll just call it Aldi 1 and Aldi 2. Okay, so Aldi 1 sells just like regular grocery store items, and Aldi 2 sells specialty items. You're like wondering why I'm telling you this. So they wanted to bring over Aldi to America, so they did, and they just called it Aldi. And we have one of these off of Davis. Right now there's an Aldi grocery store that you can go to. And they're thinking if it does well, we'll bring over Aldi 2, the specialty item grocery store, and we'll see how that goes. And so Aldi 1 did very well, and so they decided to bring over Aldi 2, but they couldn't call it Aldi 2 because they already had named their grocery store Aldi, and then they ended up building an Aldi 2 in Southlake, and it is actually called Trader Joe's, which is crazy. I love how they make it looks exactly like this, and you can see more of the town square in the background right there. And this was designed in 2013, before obviously before this was built, but they stayed pretty true to the design. So this week we are going to be talking more about perspective. You guys are going to be learning how to draw in perspective. All you need for this is you'll need a piece of paper, you're going to need a ruler, and you're going to need a pencil. Okay? That's all I've got for you guys today. Have a great day, and I will see you all tomorrow.